Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role Playing Gamers podcast. I'm Nathan, I'm your host. I've got Matt with me. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Thank you so much. And again, we have our grace with the presence of Tomas Härenstam, president of Free League Publishing. Say hi, Thomas.
Hello.
Welcome back. Always great to have you on. And we're going to talk about something very near and dear to our hearts, Dragonbane. We talked a
Yeah.
little bit about it at Gen Con last year, about some of the stuff that you're working on, and now some of the things that you were talking about last year are actually coming to fruition. So
hmm
currently you have the Kickstarter for it's Arkand, City of Waves and Flames, and Book of Magic. It's a twofer, so two
It
books
is.
and
Yeah.
lots of extra stuff. So you want to give us just a quick rundown of what you're kickstarting?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're kickstarting two expansions for Dragonbane. So, like you mentioned, there's Arkand, a city module, a campaign book, and also Book of Magic, which basically expands the magic system in the core game with the new schools of magic and lots of more spells for the new schools and the old ones, and also a lot of material just about how magic works in this world and sort of what how you learn magic, how to find a teacher, and so there's like a lot more sort of just general information about magic and how that what role that sort of has in the world as well. So yeah, those are the two books that we're kickstarting right now.
Yeah, and as the time we're talking, you're really doing pretty well on the funding. I think there's just one stretch goal left to unlock the additional set of standees. So
Yeah.
how close are to getting that?
Yeah, we unlocked the 10th stretch goal yesterday, and now we added two more. So we have two more, one more adventure location for Arkand
Oh, okay.
first, and then the additional standee set coming up also. So we'll see. I think we're tracking pretty well. I'm have good hopes that we'll reach both of them. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens.
Great. So let's start off with Arkand and just these locations in general, like with the original box set. You've got the Misty Vale and the Path of Glory. You've got another location. Now there isn't like it's not like Forbidden Lands where you actually have like these mapped out territories and where they are. There's kind of a nebulous, vague
Yeah.
area. Is this something that are you going to have like some kind of a atlas or something at some point where everything is kind of like this is where Arkand is, this is where the Misty Vale is, and this is how long it takes to get from Misty Vale to Arkand
Yeah,
and all
I
that.
mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, generally, Dragonbane is released as a sort of setting agnostic game. There's like not
Mm,
one official setting. We really want to let groups design their own settings, and there's great third-party material setting worlds,
yeah,
and so we don't want to sort of lock it into one specific setting. We think the game is more versatile when people can do with it a little bit more what they want. But that said, the official material that we have released that includes the Secret of the Dragon Emperor campaign in the core set, and then Path of Glory, and
mm,
now Arkand. They all sort of share some. There are like callbacks. There's some connections between them. So
mm,
some characters, some groups that are mentioned in the core game in the campaign there. They appear again in Path of Glory and then again in Arkand. So there's definitely a sense of these three existing in the same world and not immensely far from each other. So
okay,
we are sort of building an implied setting with these, and we'll continue to do that. I think we'll see whether we actually map those out more or just leave it a little bit open how long it takes to travel from the dead forest in Path of Glory to Arkand. Does it take a week? Does it take 2 weeks? Maybe it doesn't really matter. So we'll see whether we actually tie them together on a map. If we do that,
yeah,
we're sort of getting very close to actually having an official setting, which we kind of don't. So
yeah,
we feel that leaving it a bit nebulous also makes the world feel a little bit more mysterious than if you have everything laid out on a map. So that's also another factor. So yeah, we'll see. For now, we'll continue to build this sort of implied setting rather than have a big map of it all.
Okay. Yeah, I've backed some other stuff. The Windhelm from Andreas Landstrom's
Yeah.
group was pretty cool. So that was another city setting. But
Mm.
and honestly, I played in Greyhawk for like 20 years before I actually saw a map of like the full thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you as it's not super important. You know, you can build it as a GM however you want.
Mm.
So you talked about some of the groups that are kind of shared between. I'm guessing there you've got some of the same factions. Are there new factions, especially with city? Is there more
Yeah.
kind of like more localized factions included?
There are. I mean, the city. This is what sort of what's fun about doing a city module is that you have lots of groups and people, and in a different way. I mean, both the original campaign of the core set and also Path of Glory, they're both mostly wilderness type environments. Also, some of it underground, but still, it's a different thing. Now we felt this is a nice change of pace to add a city book to get another type of environment where you can have like more groups, factions, NPCs, and yeah, there are lots of bigger and smaller factions of all kinds. Everything from sort of criminal syndicates down in the harbor, and then you have
Hmm.
some weird pirates hanging around. This is a seaport city after all, and then you have everything from that up until like the rulers on top of this cliff, because this city climbs a rock face from the
Okay.
water up to like a rock pinnacle. So you have all kinds of different factions and groups along the way there. So it's definitely a melting pot of different characters and groups and everything that you could imagine in a fantasy city like this.
And do you have can you give us kind of a like a high level overview of the history of Arkand, like in setting and who, and after that maybe talk about like how your writers kind of came up with the idea for Arkand.
Yeah, I mean, this is originally a pitch from the two Johans. There's the writer who's Johan Sjoberg, who has been he wrote stuff for the original, or not maybe the first edition, but an early edition of the Swedish Drakdemoner, which is
Mm,
Dragonbane. In the early 90s, when he was like 17, he published stuff, official stuff back then, actually.
that's great.
But then he's been doing other things since then. But anyway, and so he and Johan Egerkrans, who does a lot of the
Oh,
art, the cover art, and also
yeah.
of course did the Vaesen art book and all of the art for Vaesen, or
Yep.
most of the art for Vaesen. Those two, they're all old friends. They've known each other for decades, and they pitched this idea together. And so really, I mean, and we thought this would be a perfect fit for Dragonbane to have a city book like this. So that exactly how they came up with the idea, I guess it's probably better for them to answer.
Yeah.
But
Right.
in terms of the history, it's what's cool about it is that much like old cities in the real world, Arkand has gone through, I think, four different eras with different rulers of completely different yeah, eras, and a lot of the history is sort of buried underneath. So there's like if you go
Mm,
down into dig down, you'll find like remnants and ruins of older eras underneath the newer buildings. So it's a city built on top of itself in several layers. And this is true. This is exactly what has happened in
yeah.
real life. Like medieval cities in around the Mediterranean, for example, have exactly this. You could sort of dig down and find layers from like medieval times, Roman times, and you can go deeper. And this is very much what inspired Arkand as well. So you can have these different
Mm,
layers, and also some of those layers may have things that can still be relevant and come to life today. For example, there was a school of dragon riding, going back to the old dragon worshipping empire. So this was like
mm,
a dragon riding academy, basically, that was there long ago. So there's well, and not to spoil things, but you might find some things of that still around, and There's also been an earlier era of demonic influence. Of course, dragons and demons have a key role in this game overall. So there's also been a demonic era. So that there, and of course, demons never quite die. They're only sleeping, and they might come back. So there's definitely things of that around as well that you might bring to life, or that you might have to deal with in one way or another. So that's really the idea of the history, is those layers on top of each other.
Okay. Matt, do you have anything before I keep going?
Yeah, no, I feel like you've got a camera looking at my question list. No, and so given that, with all that history in the current setting, who are some of the influential NPCs? Who's in power now? Who might influence, how life is for the characters in the city?
Yeah, I mean,
Current.
there's a variety of characters, and since there is a ruler whose title escapes me in English right now. This is originally written in Swedish, and we're translating, so I actually don't. But there's a ruler, and but then apart from her, there are also a number of powerful guilds. This is a city after all, so you have a martial guild, you have a guild of merchants and of seafarers, and all of those, and then some more unsavory like guilds of thieves and criminals as well. So those are, in terms of who sort of controls daily life, I think those guilds have a lot of sway. And then there's more eccentric characters like Master Achilles, who runs a menagerie, or sort of like a circus of monsters. So he sort of collects monsters and shows them off and experiments on them. You might be drawn in as a player to either procure some interesting specimen for him, or maybe in the other direction, help them to set them free or something. I mean, that there's multiple ways to interact with a lot of these NPCs, but those are some of the characters in there. There's a bunch. I don't have them all off the
Right.
top of my head.
Just list them all out for us.
Yeah, I mean,
So there's definitely a lot of very cool characters. I think there's some art on the page as well, where you can see a lot of those
Yeah.
those characters. Johan Egerkrans does an amazing job of really bringing out the really cool, quirky characters, bring them to life in his art, and Johan Sjoberg does the same in his writing. So that's really a key part of this, is the characters.
Yeah, I see it's a nice little beefy duck on there with a spear. But
Yeah.
so another thing I want to ask about. So there's definitely a kind of a seafaring theme, especially when I look at the cover. Kind of things like, oh, I'm going to see ships. Are there any? What are the seafaring influences for this book, and are there any additional rules or boats kind of mapped out in there that kind of
Right. I mean, there's definitely, like you say, the maritime theme is definitely there. It used to, in one of the earlier eras, it was actually, the whole town was controlled by pirates. It was like a pirate port. Not anymore. The pirates are still around. They're just not in charge anymore. That might change. So they are there. And of course, there's maritime trade to other regions. Primarily, there's not, in this particular book, not like new rules for sea travel, since the book is very much focused on the town of Arkand and its environs, so it doesn't really have rules for leaving the city. That's sort of,
Okay.
we want people to stay there. That is something that we will probably add in a later book, though, like sea travel and things like that. But it's not really what we're focusing on in this particular book.
Okay.
So, you talked about different factions. Are there going to be any new, like, character classes or archetypes that are introduced into this setting, or?
That's actually it's a good question. That's not the focus. Is not. I mean, generally for this book, it's very much a campaign book, an adventure book. It doesn't really have new rules, and that's sort of not the focus of it. Like, we're kickstarting two books. One is this one, Arcana, and the other one is the Book of Magic, and that one has basically all rules, almost all of it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and then as for new classes, that's something we're sort of looking at later on. A book that expands the game in general, with new classes, new heroic abilities, secondary skills, bonus, yeah, all kinds of extra rules. But that's probably in a later book. And of course, you have the magic rules in the Book of Magic. But Arkand is not really a book that includes any rules. It's an adventure source book.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think at Gen Con last year, you kind of teased maybe like an expert or advanced rules.
Yeah,
book
exactly.
at
That's
some
still on
point.
the
Yeah.
horizon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can't wait to see that too. But so let's see. I think I did see that Master Achilles. There's a miniature that is part of the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So that kind of it points toward that you're looking at, instead of just a flat standees, you're also looking at more 3D printed type miniatures.
Right. I mean, yeah, that is a little bit of a taster, a little sneak peek of more things to come. There was already actually a campaign. I lost the name of the website or the platform, but a sort of a subscription thing where you could get
Right, yeah,
like
yeah.
sculpts,
I did see
STL, STL files for Dragonbane. But then you would have to print them yourself. This one will be a physical miniature, and there are more of that planned later on. So that's not part of this. This is more of a little bit of a taster. We have a partnership with a company called Titan Forge. They did the sculpts for the first Dragonbane miniatures, and then this one, and also there's more of that coming pretty soon. So yeah, we think especially with the art style of Johan Egerkrans, and also David Brasgallo does great art also. I mean, that style fits miniatures pretty well. They're kind of very distinct characters. And just miniatures in general, we think would be a good fit for Dragonbane. If you want to, you can certainly play without them, but we think it's going to be a nice addition. So this one miniature that is included in this Kickstarter as a stretch goal is just a little bit of a fun sneak peek of what's to come later on.
That's fine. I think there's a lot of folks that really enjoy the playing with miniatures and just painting, and there's
Just
people
painting,
that are just
the fun of
Matt, do you have any questions? More questions about Arkand, or do you want to switch over to?
No, I'm good.
All right, Book of Magic. So in our game, which episode 33 should be out in the next week. I'm about a week late on it already, but our Mallard mage is kind of a glass cannon. It just so much lightning damage in our games. I could see it's super fun, but also kind of a challenge when I was running that, just to kind of like make sure he just didn't like blast everything out of the water. But now we're adding a bunch of new schools, which are super fun. But let's start off. Any advice for GMs that have a mage that has really figured out some of the tricks to optimizing their destructive capabilities?
You mean he is too powerful or not powerful enough?
He's actually, I would say almost, I was too powerful. He's
Right.
basically, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
if he has willpower, then everything.
We've literally paused and not done fights and done other things, and if he was going to miss the session.
Oh.
We would be like, well, we could attack the troll next week.
Next
Why don't we
time.
check out this other thing down here until he's back? And I want to apologize.
No, I mean,
they are literally tearing up the street outside my house, and my dog is having a conniption. So,
right. So yeah, I mean, that's always can be a tricky thing. But yeah, like you mentioned there, of course, willpower is the key. So well, you have to manage those willpower points, because even though you can definitely create, do some real heavy damage, once the willpower points are gone, you're sort of stuck. So you have to manage those pretty carefully. And of course, also mages tend to be, as you mentioned, glass cannon. They can be fairly fragile. So there's also the risk of actually, taking damage. So there are those two things to consider, and that can balance things up a little bit.
Great.
He became even more egregious when he realized that he could draw willpower from other players.
Right.
We developed a phobia of our mallards' bad touches.
Yeah, it was,
He just saw the rest of us as batteries.
Right.
Power.
It's almost like a
yeah.
vampire duck. But yeah, there are a ton of new schools in this. I'm going to just read through them real quick. Harmonism, demonology, necromancy, witchcraft, illusionism, symbolism, and just recently added alchemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so harmonism, is that like can you go through? Yeah, if you could describe some of these, harmonism, is that like a bardic college, or is that
Right, it's like a music magic, yeah. So it's sort of a it's sort of bard like, but it's a music through or a magic through music and sound, yeah.
okay. Any kind of call out spells that seem like super fun in that class that you've already worked on, or
Right, yeah, that's a good question. There's a bunch of them, so it's hard to just pick one. But there's a bunch of. I mean, generally, what we try to do with all of the new magic schools, and that is the challenge, is to not just make them another attack spell with a new name, but actually make them different. So they actually do something different or in a different way, so that they actually feel different when you use them. It's not just another D6 damage, but it's called through sound instead of fire, but it's the same thing. We want to avoid that and make them more stand out a bit more. But that is sometimes difficult, and but that is definitely the goal. And we're still working on that right now. This book is not finished. We have a draft of most of the schools of magic, but I think the stretch goal ones are probably, we're just starting now, so we don't really, we have a general idea what we want to do, but those are not written yet. So that's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, I trust you'll do a good job with that, because I look through the monsters, and each of their their abilities, aren't all just different flavors of damage. They're like each one of those 6 maneuvers are all pretty unique and fun, and so I trust that you'll do a good job of kind of giving each of these some flavor. Like demonology, I guess is that like summoning, controlling demons, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and demonology is a fun one, because that's also the same thing there. You said, like, you have the obvious one, like summon a demon, but what else can you do? Because demonology has a lot of potential. Like, what if you send someone else to a demonic, dimension for just one round, and they come back? What would that look like? So I mean, there's sort of things like that will make it different and fun. Is sort of what we're aiming for.
I hope that is a spell that you guys are working
That
on.
is an actual spell. That is actually an actual spell. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine like coming back with conditions already.
Yeah. Trauma, right?
Yeah, trauma. Yeah.
So one thing on the spells, I think if I got this right, I think Nathan and I were talking about this, is it mentions 5 levels, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think the current is 3, correct?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, generally, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So what describe how what's changing with that, or how you came about with that?
I mean, the spell ranks, as we call them, they're not super strict. We got some questions about this actually in the first game, because they're like, what does a rank actually do? And it doesn't really do anything. It's just a measure of the level of how advanced the spell is. So generally, in the way it works is that it's sort of like a tech tree, that you have to know some, apart from the basic spells, which are rank 1. Those you can just learn if you find a teacher or a spell book. But then to learn then most other spells, you have to know a spell to learn this one. So there's like a hierarchy of spells, and the higher up you go in this tree, that's how high the rank is. So basically, a rank 3, you have to know a rank 1 and a rank 2 spell, and then to learn the rank 3 spell. So basically, what expanding this up to rank 4 and 5 basically just adds more advanced, more difficult spells to learn, and also more powerful spells. And so basically, you just and the good thing about that is also it creates more potential for character development for wizard characters, and we're adding these more advanced spells for of course the new schools of magic, but also the ones that existed in the core game. In the core game, there's actually I think one or two rank 4 and 5 spells already, but in general magic for permanence and some other things that for creating
Right.
magical items. So we already had that in the core game, but just a little bit. Now we're sort of expanding that across all of the schools of magic, like old and new.
So for the old, for the current schools of magic, will they? So there's the new schools of magic. Will the current schools of magic get like an expansion, like if
Yeah.
for each of them? Okay.
Yeah, so they're all up. So they're getting new spells on that. The old spells remain, and we'll also include the old spells in the Book of Magic just so that you have everything in one place. But then also
Okay, that's
adding
good.
these
Okay. Cool.
rank 4 and 5 spells for those schools as well. So all of the schools will have spells from rank 1 to 5.
So we're talking about like you mentioned items. That made me think about like some of these new schools really seem to have more like a physical component. I think definitely alchemy is obvious. Symbolism, I would assume they're have to draw symbols
Yeah.
on an object to release that power. And maybe witchcraft too. I don't know if that's got a physical component. So, are there kind of any additional rules for kind of managing how many components you need or create?
I mean, already in the core game, there are some spells that require a physical component, and that certainly will be expanding on that in the Book of Magic also. But then, like you mentioned, there are some schools that are where this is even more a thing or even more prominent. Like, for example, alchemy. We're still
Yeah.
building that, but that will of course require ingredients. Symbolism, even though you can potentially draw maybe just make a sign in the air for some of the spells, so that's not might not necessarily require, but generally symbolism will require actually drawing a symbol on something or engraving it into something and things like that. So it will be a thing, but more for some schools of magic than others, having like physical components. But yeah, it's something that can be done for all. There's actually one thing we did consider, since I mean this is a new edition of an old RPG with a long history over here. That was actually a school of magic in a very earlier version that was called like staff magic. So that was just magic through magic staffs and wands. We chose not to include that because it didn't really make sense, because you can basically use a wand or staff for any type of magic. But that was this idea of having the school of magic that exclusively used like staffs, but we felt that didn't make a lot of sense, so we decided to actually cut it. So you can use that in a range of schools instead of just one. So yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine it's hard too because there's such a history there that you kind of you may have this nostalgic feeling from like you playing a staff mage 20, 25 years ago. I was like, I remember that. I had so much fun with that.
Yeah.
Let's bring that in. And then we bring it in. It's like, well, maybe
Right.
that doesn't,
Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
that doesn't work.
Yeah, no, there's definitely part of that, but it's also part of the fun. But yeah, everyone has their favorite edition, and yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
that thing going on. But that said, even here, I mean, I think this new edition has landed fairly well. So it's generally, I think most people seem to like it. But of course, there's always that, I like this thing to come back or that thing to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't bring everything back because we have to sort of choose. Yeah.
So, I was thinking, you mentioned earlier about new rules, additional rules, or can you kind of go through some of the big things that are being fleshed out in the Book of Magic?
Sorry, it broke up.
Rules, the new rules
Yeah.
for the Book of Magic.
I mean, rules beyond the new schools, and you mean like
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said about like finding teachers,
right? Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, some of that. I mean, generally the new rules are new spells mainly, but there's also a fairly sizable section in each magic school that about how to find a teacher, how to learn it, and that can sometimes involve some rules as well. For example, in the demonology chapter, how do you find a demonology teacher? That can be a fun challenge in itself, and
Yeah.
you have to actually find a demon to teach you, and what does the demon want in return? Well,
Right.
so there's a whole thing there, and that is structured in a way that also borders, has some rules implications at least.
And thanks for that. And magic items, are there new magic items in this book?
There will be, yeah. Both some example magic items, but also expanded rules on how to create them. There are rules for that in the core game, but we're sort of expanding that a bit, giving more options to create magical items, both as a player character, but also for the GM to create fun magical items. But yeah, and also a selection of like sample magical items that can be cool just to introduce in your game. So that's what we want to have in that chapter. That was also a stretch goal though, so that's still on the sort of concept stage. We have only started sketching it out. It's not written, it's not done yet. So
Matt, do you have questions?
Oh, I was just so I know it's hard to pick a favorite, but given what you've already got on the books, do you have do you have a favorite spell, or one that's really weird, or one that was a fun mechanic that you think it's going to be, people, when they read it, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I got to use this spell.
Well, I mean, the one that came to mind was the one we just discussed about, the demonology one. We kind of briefly send someone to a demonic dimension. That's the one that came to mind. But yeah, there is a bunch more, a lot of fun ones.
Yeah, and what about other kind of so I picked up Philip Reed's treasure cards. Are there going to be more cards out there like this that you're going to publish yourself, or?
I mean, for this particular Kickstarter, it's 2 books. So the Arkand book will have a big map now that was unlocked. So that will be like a thing inside the book, but we won't. So we won't add cards. At least it doesn't seem to be in the cards right now. So, but I mean, there's a couple of other things like the standees set if that's unlocked, and of course the little miniature. So yeah, we can add a few other things, but more cards is not something we're looking at the moment. But the campaign is not over yet, so we'll see what happens. Yeah.
So if I can put my request in, I am a huge fan of the improvised weapon cards. Whenever Dragonbane comes up on Reddit or someplace, I kind of throw that out as something that like I feel adds like a kind of a swashbuckling, 70s movie quality to it, which I really enjoy. Just like swinging from a branch or throwing dust in somebody's eye, like
pocket sand.
Yeah, it's just so much fun, and it just makes combat a little bit more interesting. Maybe it's not optimal, or maybe it's very powerful, but I'm that's my pitch to you for
all right.
Maybe for the next one for the expert game or something.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, I think it would probably be a better fit for that book than the 2 ones we're kickstarting now. But sure, I really enjoy the improvised attacks as well, improvised weapons. That they are a lot of fun, and the idea is exactly what you mentioned. That kind of mix combat up, and they're quite powerful. So if you can, but they're limited in. So they can only use each one once. So that's and having some more of those would be. It's not. I'll have to take that and.
I'll second as a player.
For, next time.
I will second as a player. If people go and listen to us playing, almost every fight, it's one of the first questions the group would ask.
Yeah.
What are the improvised things, right? Because
all right, cool.
they add a level of creative approach to how you might handle an encounter. So from a GM and as a player, they are great. Everyone was always asking.
That's cool. Yeah. I think that's a good instinct, a good impulse to sort of ask for that. We play quite a bit of Dragonbane here, but my players, they forget those, so I have to kind of remind them. So I think you seem to have, I like that you sort of made it part of your sort of routine to ask for that, because that's really the way it should be done.
Yeah, especially when there's ghosts, things like that. Like everybody's looking, or where's the torch? I gotta find that. I don't have a weapon that can hurt it, so I need a torch.
I
can definitely see like ship-based specific ones, kind of underground specific, or tavern specific. You could have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, that's my pitch. I'm gonna put to rest here.
I like that.
So there's a lot in here that as far as bonus items too. Like you've got I'm gonna show my you've got the cloth map there that from the original set. There's a new cloth map item in this Kickstarter.
Yeah.
What are some of the other kind of add-ons that you're including as part of this one?
Right. I mean, there's a couple of, the cloth map definitely, and that's also available in some of the bundles also, but but also as an add-on. Those cloth maps are pretty great, I think, and it's done by Francesca Barrial, an Italian artist, who also did the one for the core game and Path of Glory, so it sort of stays very consistent in its style. And beyond that, of course, you can get the previous Dragonbane stuff, other Free League games, at least the core games. And then if you really want to go all in, there are some really deluxe, super luxury art prints by Johan Egerkrans of the cover art in big numbered limited prints that you could add if you want to hang that on your wall. So
yeah, there you go.
There's that.
Yeah, the Z-Clay prints.
Yeah, right.
I saw that.
They're kind of pricey, but they are beautiful. So if you go that way, that's also available.
Yeah, people. I love the cloth maps. I just love the way they look. But the Z-Clay prints, I like. They're kind of like I'm borderline. I haven't taken the plunge yet, but I just don't have any wall space. Very little wall space left.
Yeah.
Back to the city of Arkand for a second. Is there an overarching story with this, or is it pretty loose where you can say, "Oh, I'm just going to use this adventure site and this adventure site," or is there an overarching story?
I mean, generally, we want Arkand to be a location, a city, a town that you can visit and visit again and write new adventures for. So it has a lot of detailed location descriptions, characters, backstory. There's lots and lots of random encounters. So basically, this is a living, breathing. You just sort of go there and things will start happening. But it's very much a sandbox that you can use in a multitude of ways. But there are also a number of, I think, 3 or 4 sort of campaigns. Or campaign frames with the number of steps of things that can happen that sort of are different ways to tie these characters and locations together into a story or an adventure or a campaign. So you can do that in a number of different ways. You can kind of thread that story through the city in various ways. So it's not just one adventure, then you played it and you're done. It's much more of a sandbox thing, but there are also these specific storylines that you can introduce to your game. So that's sort of the way we want it to work, is that it's not a one and done and then you go on and play something else, but you can kind of visit Arkand for a while and then maybe go on another adventure and then come back, and it sort of stays there, and you can continue playing there, write adventures there yourself, or just play more of a sandbox type game and just make it a living, breathing fantasy city.
Is there any kind of, given that guilds are such a prominent sort of feature and they're kind of the movers and shakers, is there any kind of faction system, or if I go do something for this guild,
like renown or kind of
right. Well, there is not a lot of new mechanics like that, but there's definitely it's definitely part of Arkand, your sort of standing with different factions and how to interact with them will have implications. But generally, we don't want to build too much extra mechanics for this game, so I don't think we have like sort of mechanical standing rules or anything like that.
It's implied.
Yeah. So it's more on the role playing level, but definitely that sort of thing is part of the game there.
So timelines. You've got from what the way you guys do things. You definitely have a lot of the outlay done before you start here. But when are you looking at putting out kind of beta PDFs and then shipping the books later?
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I think the delivery estimate we have on the Kickstarter is April of next year. We hope to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do it sooner, but we'd rather not promise too much. As for betas, we're working on the text now. I think Arkand is a little bit ahead of the Book of Magic,
Mm-hmm.
but we still have some stretch goals that need to be written. The other material is largely written now, being edited, and I think most of the art is done. So yeah, it's harder to give it. Probably Arcane will be shared first, and then the Book
Mm-hmm.
of Magic. I don't think it's going to happen before summer because things tend to slow down here over summer, and I don't think we'll be able to get the beta together with all the stretch goals before summer hits. But yeah,
Okay.
in the early middle fall for sure for Arkand and Book of Magic also definitely. I mean, yeah, in the fall I think is the safe. I don't want to get more specific than that.
Right. And
That can get us into trouble. Yeah.
right. And from our alien conversation, it seems like everything is coming in fall. You've got the new alien Kickstarters. You're
Yeah.
talking about shipping in the fall, and many of the other systems you're talking about. Any updates on any of those projects?
Yeah,
Anything?
we're actually doing right now. We're finalizing, so that's why sort of keeping busy here. That all of the alien stuff is going. I mean, we had a substantial round of feedback, which was great
Mm,
in the last couple of weeks. We had the betas out. I think it's maybe a month ago now, and
yep.
since then we've done a lot of discussing with fans and basically we're staying on course for the vision we had, but we also got some really great ideas and feedback that we're incorporating. And right now, actually today, we're sending pretty much everything to print. I think the core book will be maybe tomorrow or something, but that's what we're doing on that front, is basically getting everything to print, because there for Alien we want, of course, deliver everything, the physical goods, in the fall. So for
Yep.
Arkand and Book of and Dragonbane and Book of
Mm,
Magic, the betas will be in the fall and the physical books in the spring. But for
yep.
Alien, the betas were out now this spring, and then the physical books are coming in the fall. So that's a lot of focus on that right now here as well.
Yeah, I got my beta and I've been reading a lot of the feedback and looking at some of the changes and really liking it so far. So don't know when I'll get that to the table, but I definitely want to get that to the table soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we'll probably wrap things up here. Matt, do you have any other questions? Thomas, any final thoughts?
No, I think we covered a lot. I
Yeah.
don't think I have anything to add at the moment.
My some of my co-hosts like to say I always have an agenda, so I have a
Mhm.
lot of things to get through.
Yeah,
Um, but thanks for your time, Thomas. As always, very
thank you.
generous.
Nathan, were
And
you? I know you're editing this, right?
yeah,
Okay, so you were going to ask him at the end about outgunned.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Sorry, wait, time out.
Yeah. So, one final question before we sign off here.
Yeah.
I've seen you're publishing a lot of third party products, so expanding quite a bit. One of the things that's caught my eye, I haven't really looked at yet, is Outgunned.
Hmm.
Can you give us like a little bit of, tell us a little bit about that
Sure.
briefly?
Yeah. Outgunned is actually a line of games now, I think, and we're published so far. Two have been released, and I think there's more coming. But yeah, the original Outgunned is sort of, it's done by an Italian game studio called Two Little Mice that
Mm-hmm.
we've been just caught the eye. We I guess they caught our eye, and the other way around. We started discussing a long time ago, maybe working together, and they do some great stuff. And Arkand is their game that is really, I mean, the original Arkand is very much sort of it emulates the classic action film of like 80s and 90s type action film. I mean, all of that. So and it does that in a really cool way. It's very cinematic, fun, crazy game, which does that really well. So if you sort of want to play in that type of world, those kinds of stories, that's a lot of fun. And that game came out a while back, and we just agreed with them to publish it for them and distribute it. Then they also did a standalone second game called Outgunned Adventure, which is very pulpy game that it has the same mechanics, almost the same, but it's set in like it's in like an Indiana Jones type world.
Right,
very,
yeah. That's
yeah,
what I
so
was
very
thinking, yeah.
pulpy, 1920s, 30s, pulpy adventures thing, which is a lot of fun. We played it just the other week here and had great fun with it. So it's a perfect game. I guess you can play longer campaigns. We've only been able to play like the adventures that we published for the game, but that's maybe 2 or 3 sessions. But it's a perfect 2 or 3 session game, at least for us to play like a fun wild ride. And so that's and those are fairly small, digest-sized games, I guess, books, easy to carry around and easy to get on the table. So it's a fun game, and then there's a bunch of actually expansions for it as well. So it's they're very productive and great to work with. So that's worth checking out.
Okay. Well, awesome. That sounds great. I've heard some good things, but I just didn't really know anything about it, and hadn't had time to look it up. So I appreciate the
Sure.
the overview. But yeah, so thanks again for coming on our show. Always appreciate the time you give us. But
Thank you.
You've got 14 as the time of this recording. There's 14 days left to go. So if you haven't backed this Kickstarter, I'll have the link in the description and go check it out. But thanks again, guys. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Thomas. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.